Hey guys, it is February the 1st, 2025, and I hope everybody is having a great start to their weekend so far. I cannot believe that it is already February the 1st. January just absolutely flew by. Man, I cannot believe it. And it is an absolutely beautiful day here in South Carolina today. I think it's like 68 degrees right now. Which is a huge difference from what we've had over the past few weeks. It's been like really, really cold. Cold here for South Carolina too, because we usually have a pretty mild winter. Some winters, worse than others, and this year has actually been a pretty cold year. One of the coldest years that we've had in quite some time. But, here it is, February 1st, and this is usually our coldest month. And we've already got, day one of February, we've got basically a 70-degree day, which is, it's just absolutely beautiful. And I am not complaining about this nice weather one bit. I don't know what in the world that noise is right now. Somebody's down there like banging on metal or something. I swear, it's like as soon as I hit the record button, people start, running chainsaws and shooting guns and screaming and hollering. It's just, driving their vehicles up and down the driveway. It's just like every time I hit the record button, people start making noise. If I hit stop, everything will quiet down. But anyway, since it's Saturday and I have some stuff that I'm going to be doing with my kids today, we are having a camp out tonight, and my kids are having friends over for a sleepover, and then I'm taking them outside, and we're going to be camping out and cooking on the fire and making s'mores tonight. We're going to be doing like those hobo meals. I think I've spoken about them before, but it's basically just like a hamburger patty. I use ground turkey or ground chicken, but I just patty up a patty, and we season the meat and all that kind of stuff, and make big patties out of it, and then we put that in aluminum foil, and then whatever vegetables that you want to throw in it. I put carrots and onions and celery and potatoes in mine. I'm sure my kids probably won't want to do that, but or whatever vegetables I've just got laying around. I've used zucchini, squash, all kinds of stuff, and I spray the foil with a little bit of oil, and season up everything, and then we wrap it up a couple times with some foil, and then we just toss it right into the hot coals, and it makes for one ridiculous meal. If you guys have never tried one, if you've never been on a camping trip, or just decided to make a campfire in your yard and try making one of those, you could throw it into your fireplace at home, and same thing. But you get that little bit of smokiness from the fire in there, and the heat from those red coals. You get that nice char on the outside of the burger, and the vegetables get nice and charred on the outside, and in the center it's all nice and steam. You got that steam in there that helps cook everything, and then you get that char on everything. It makes for a delicious meal. And the best part about it is that once you pull it out of the fire, you like tear off like one layer of the aluminum foil, and then just take a knife and cut the center of the little package right open, and then just maybe lay it on a paper plate. You could set it directly on your lap and eat right out of the container, and it's good. It really is. And that's what we're going to be making tonight. And as a matter of fact, when I get done filming today's video, I'm going to get the boys together, and we're going to go in the kitchen and prep everything out, go ahead and make those little hobo packs. And we'll just throw them in a cooler. So tonight, when it's time, after we get the fire going and all that stuff, we'll just toss them right in the fire. I'm looking forward to the s'mores more than anything. I love s'mores, and I won't eat a lot. I'll just have probably like a half of a graham cracker of one. With my diabetes and everything, those things will throw my blood sugar right through the roof. But I am going to have a s'more tonight, and a nice cup of coffee while I'm hanging out with the kids. And we're just going to have a good time, tell some ghost stories and stuff like that. You guys know that I love to camp. I like being outside. I love being outdoors more than anything else. It's just something I really enjoy. I was in the Boy Scouts growing up, and I've always lived in the country. When we were kids, we had thousands of acres of land that was behind our house that was undeveloped. It was just wilderness, and we had a creek behind our house. My brother and I built a big dam in the backyard, and we had like a little pond that we used to swim in. And we would just go out there and camp. My parents never really cared. My brother and I would have our backpacks packed on Thursday night before we went to school, and Friday after we got out of school, we would take our backpacks off and then throw our other backpacks on and just head out into the woods and camp. And my parents never cared. We would just walk off into the woods and just throw up our tents and just camp out. And I just have a lot of really good memories from those days. I've done a lot of camping over the years as an adult. Now, not since I've gotten sick. I haven't done much camping, and if I really have done any camping, it's pretty much been out here on my property, which I'm so blessed to have the amount of property that I do have to be able to do that. Just being outside and sleeping on the ground, it's just fun, and it just really brings me back to earth. Just being out and looking up at the stars and looking at the moon if it's out that night, and just sitting around the campfire telling ghost stories or spooky stories and stuff like that. I don't know, it just kind of brings me back to my childhood. It's really nostalgic. Hot cocoa around the campfire, all that stuff. It's just one of those things I just really enjoy to do. And it's one of those things as well that I really enjoyed doing. Even as a drinker, I did a lot of camping. But towards the end of my addiction, I became so isolated, and my anxiety levels had gotten so bad. I've talked about this, but I had such a hard time driving. Just to be able to drive to the mountains. I mean, it's a 4.5 hour drive from here, depending on which ones you want to go to. And, there are a lot of main roads that you'd have to get on. And I became so isolated and so scared to drive that I stopped doing it. And the alcohol pretty much kept me in the four walls of my home. And it became a very, very depressing time for me. Because I wasn't doing what I loved to do anymore. I had given it all up for my addiction. And I knew that it was causing me all these problems. And instead of trying to fix it, I just continued down that road. And as time went on, months would go by, since the last time I had been on a camping trip. And the next thing you know, it had been years had gone by since the last time I had gone on a camping trip. And I thought about it often, and really every single day. And it really started to depress me pretty bad. Here I am, I'm stuck. I can't stop drinking. I've tried multiple times, and I just kept going back. I missed, doing the things that I enjoyed to do, but I just couldn't get through my addiction. I couldn't stop in order to get back to doing the things that I enjoyed. And the depression really sat in. And, as I got more and more depressed, I drank more. I started gaining a lot of weight. I wasn't, I've talked about this, but I weighed 250 pounds right there at the end when I got sick. And I wasn't always that big of a guy. I think probably the biggest I had ever gotten was about 185 pounds leading up before I had gotten that big. And that was right there at the end of, of my drinking days. And I probably weighed about 250 pounds for a few years. Probably about 5 years I was that large. And, that depressed me because I had gotten so overweight. I felt so unhealthy. My face was so red. And I'm not kidding, guys. Like, the color of this little thing right here, like, all the time. And if I got upset, angry, embarrassed, something like that, my face would turn like a dark purple color. My blood pressure was always through the roof. I had a headache all the time. I just felt so gross. I had indigestion nonstop, and I just didn't feel good. I was always tired. I threw up all the time. My throat always burned, and my voice had become very, very, very raspy. I talk like this all the time. That's exactly how I sounded, just like this. And especially if I had to raise my voice up, I would start getting really quiet because my voice was so raspy. But that's how I sounded all the time. I sounded like that for years because I smoked so much and because I threw up every single day. And I think I have some recordings of me talking, and I sound just like that. I'm not kidding. And I sound like that every single day. And I get to see my health was going straight off the cliff, and I just didn't know what to do to get my life back in order. And, I had another video idea that I was going to discuss today, and I'm going to talk about that here at the end of the video. And I've kind of come up with another video idea, just talking about the fact that I was going to take my kids camping on our property tonight, about how I lost everything that I had loved and enjoyed in my life because of my drinking. And guys, I can't tell you how depressing that was for me, because I really, 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 really enjoyed doing those things. Whitewater kayaking, canoeing, hiking, mountain biking, camping in the woods. I mean, that meant everything to me. It really did. Absolutely everything. The outdoors is like my heart and soul. It really is. I've spent my whole entire life basically outdoors, other than when I've had to go to work. I mean, of course, I can't spend all my time outside, but, leading up until I got to the point where I just didn't do much anymore. And even in very, very active addiction, I still tried to get outside and do things. A lot of times I just go out and sit outside while I drank. Even though I wasn't doing much, I'd just sit on my back porch with the sun gleaming on me, and I would drink doing that. And, I just wanted to get outside, but I wasn't doing the fun things that I really enjoyed to do anymore. And I've done a lot of things in my life, a lot of different things, and a lot of stuff outside. And I can honestly say, I mean, I've been to some of the highest peaks in the United States and skied down them, and I've hiked very long distances and camped for days on end. I've gone down, hundreds of miles down rivers over long periods of time. I've paddled all the way down to the coast, down rivers before, and the thing is that getting out there on that Whitewater, way out in the mountains, getting down into some of these canyons, just places that most people will never see, because for one, it's just too dangerous to get down in there. There's no really good hiking trails or ways to drive down into some of these areas. It's just so remote, way back in the woods, and deep into these mountain gorges that people just really just can't access unless you paddle down the river on a kayak or in a canoe or something, or a raft. And I think some of the most magical moments of my life, other than having my kids, was being down in some of these gorges and looking up and just seeing the majestic views that are down in there, with the roar of the river flowing through. Especially when I would get out of my boat, we'd pull over to the side in some of these deep gorges, and we'd pull over because it was so beautiful, and we'd sit there for an hour and just gaze at it. And of course I would have a cold beer in my hand. I always did. I always had a cooler in the back of my kayak wherever I went. And I would stop and grab a beer out. But at that point, I wasn't in drinking liquor like that. I just drank beer for the most part, and I was a problem drinker. I drank far too much. I mean, I was drinking a case of beer a day, but it wasn't like where I was at with my liquor. I didn't really get that drunk off the beer at that point. It's when I switched over to just drinking straight vodka all the time, when things just absolutely fell apart for me. But just thinking back to those days and being in some of those beautiful places and all the things that I enjoyed, and it upsets me that I enjoyed it that much and I let the alcohol destroy my chances of ever being able to experience something like that again. Because, I've talked about this here recently, and I've had people ask me, do you think that you'd ever get back into whitewater kayaking again? And the answer is no, I never will. For one, it's just too physically taxing to get down in there and do that. For one, you have to carry your kayak, and those kayaks dry without anything in them, without your gear that you have to carry, and just the gear alone that you have to wear. You're probably talking about 30 pounds of gear, and then the kayak by itself weighs about 60 to 80 pounds. And then you got your paddle, and then anything else you want to carry down in there with you, like your food and all that kind of stuff, and drinks. Especially if you're doing like an excursion over a few days, and you've got to put your camping gear and all that kind of stuff in the back of the boat. I mean, we're talking about, 150 pounds worth of gear, not including yourself, and you have to hike down into these canyons and gorges to get onto the river. The place where I used to kayak the most was the Chattooga River, and it was 1 mile walk down to the river, because there can be nothing. Those rivers are protected. It's one of the first wild and scenic rivers that's was like made like that. And Jimmy Carter actually was the one that did that. Jimmy Carter, rest in peace, was one of the first people to ever go over Bull Sluice, which is one of the bigger rapids on the Chattooga River. If you're driving down, I think it's 76, and right where the South Carolina-Georgia border is, which is the Chattooga River is the border of South Carolina and Georgia, which eventually turns into the Savannah River and continues all the way down to the coast. But when you get on 76, when you're driving down 76 and you get right there to where the river is, there's a little path you can walk down. They've got a big bathhouse right there, and you can walk down this path, and that rapid down there is called Bull Sluice. But Jimmy Carter was one of the first people to go over Bull Sluice in an open boat or a canoe. He was an avid whitewater enthusiast, and he canoed. As a matter of fact, he went down there, from what I had read, with the Secret Service on the river. And, that little area right there is very, very special to me. I've taken so many people down to that little place right there because it's really neat. You could sit down there and watch people come down, canoes, rafts, and kayaks. And right at the bottom of the drop, there's a big swimming hole where all the locals will go down there and swim. It's just a really neat place to go. If you guys are ever in the area of like Long Creek, South Carolina, or Clayton, Georgia, right where Tallulah Falls is in Georgia, that whole area right there, the Chattooga is right there, and the Five Falls area, which is on Section 4 of the Chattooga River. If any of you guys are ever want to go for a really neat whitewater rafting trip, I would definitely go with Section 4 and go with one of the guys that does the rafting excursions. I think Southeastern is probably the best, but there's also NOC that's up there as well. And they give guided rafting tours down through there, and they pack your lunch. They lay out a spread too. I actually, as a matter of fact, back when we had that eclipse, I think it was back in like 20. I'm pretty sure Trump was the president during that period of time. It was like 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. I think we had the eclipse. We went on a rafting trip on the Chattooga River. I took my whole entire staff on that river. And it was actually not just the back of the house or the kitchen staff. It was the front of the house staff too. I talked about it so much at work that, kept saying we need to do a trip together. I finally talked everybody into it, and the general manager into all of us going down there and spending the weekend, I can't remember if it was a weekend. No, it was the weekdays. We went down there for like 2 days and paddled that river, and right in the middle of the eclipse, and talk about a really neat moment. It was so cool to be on that river in the Five Falls area, sitting at the top of one of the biggest rapids on the river, watching that eclipse happen. It was just a really, really neat experience. But anyway, I've just gone on and on and on and on and on today about stuff that really doesn't pertain to alcohol. I guess it kind of does. But what I wanted to talk about today, and I'm going to keep this short and get off of here, What I want to talk about today is a reason not to drink today and a reason not to drink this weekend. And what that is the hiccups. And the reason I want to talk about this today is because I just had the hiccups just a couple minutes ago. And while I had the hiccups, it made me just think back to how I used to deal with this almost on a daily basis. Because I didn't eat food at all. I just never ate food. I drank on an empty stomach all the time, and I would get the hiccups almost daily. And I mean, to the point where I would get the hiccups so bad where it would make me vomit because of like that gag reflex that comes when you get the hiccups. I would hiccup and like acid reflux would come up as I hiccuped. And it was horrible. When you've got the hiccups so bad that you can barely even catch your breath, and you hiccup, and then this indigestion comes up your throat, and then you throw up because you just keep having the hiccups the whole entire time. It's just horrible. And like I said, I used to get it almost on a daily basis. And the reason I want to talk about this today is just a reminder for any of you guys out there who have ever dealt with the hiccups that bad when you've gotten drunk, as think about that the next time that you think about having a drink. If you're thinking about having a drink right now, or thinking about having a drink tonight, or thinking about having a drink tomorrow, think about those hiccups, because I'm sure that probably 99% of you have all dealt with a really bad case of the hiccups before in your lifetime when you've been drinking. And it's basically almost impossible to make them go away when that happens. So many nights were ruined because I got the hiccups. I would have like a night that I was supposed to go out on a date with my wife and have dinner or something. And of course I had to have a few drinks before we would go out. And of course I didn't eat because I'm going to be eating later. And I'm trying to get drunk before we go out. So I would start drinking straight liquor, hardcore. And the next thing you know, here come the hiccups. And then when I got them, everything was just ruined. The whole entire night was ruined. And that's why I'm talking about this today. Once again, it's a reminder for you guys so that you all will remember what that's like. And when you start thinking about that, maybe think about how bad that can be. Because, it would seriously make me throw up. I would get them so bad. Now, I did learn a little trick, and I can't remember where I figured this out from. I don't remember if somebody had told me or if I just did it, because I tried every, little trick in the book to make the hiccups go away, and nothing worked. I remember people telling me, and I'm not kidding, I would get hiccups so bad that like people were always trying to help me get rid of them. I've had people tell me, I'm gonna scare you and that's gonna help get rid of the hiccups. Or and I remember my brother did it one time, and he was like, there's this trick and you can only do it once and it really works. And he did it, and it actually did make my hiccups go away that day. But I've heard of people saying you just got to drink water upside down, and you like hold your nose and like pour the water back down your throat. There are so many different things I've heard of, and nothing worked. Hold your breath for as long as you can. That never worked. I can't remember all the things. People were always giving me some little trick and telling me to try this or chew on this and that'll make it go away, and nothing worked. The only thing that I found that ever worked for the hiccups was to get the biggest scoop of peanut butter on a spoon that you could like physically put in your mouth. And you could just get a big spoonful, and it's got to be the creamy kind. You don't want chunky peanut butter, because you basically have to just like swallow this, and you don't want to be swallowing whole peanuts like that. But you get a big spoonful of like creamy peanut butter and put it in your mouth, and then basically swallow that whole lump of peanut butter, and it like coats your throat. It's very hard to swallow when you do it too. You get this big scoop of peanut butter and you almost choke on it when you're trying to swallow it down. But you don't drink anything after that. You let the peanut butter kind of go down your throat, and I guess it does something that like coats whatever it is that's being triggered, whatever that little thing is that I guess is letting your stomach know that it's, I don't know. I really don't know how hiccups work. All I can say is that when you get that big scoop of peanut butter, you swallow it down, don't drink anything, it like coats your throat and it stops it. It stops the hiccups. And it saved my life so many times. I can't tell you guys, because like I said, there would be these nights where I had these big plans. I was supposed to go do something. We were supposed to go out or go out with another couple or something. And the next thing you know, I've got the hiccups and the whole night's ruined. And then I would start hiccuping to the point where I would throw up, and then the night was over. I can't tell you guys how many nights I remember just I had to go lay down and I could not stop the hiccups. It was like torture. It would be so bad for me sometimes. I would try to go to sleep. I just wanted to pass out, and it would keep me up. And I'm talking about being super intoxicated, and where normally I would just close my eyes and be done. The hiccups would keep me up for hours throughout the night because I just could not stop. And I couldn't lay down because I'd hiccup and this acid would come up into my throat. And then you'd hiccup again, then it would suck into your lungs, because you're doing that, you're breathing in as you hiccup, and stuff would go back in your lungs. It was just horrible. And it's just one of those reasons why not to drink today. Why not to drink again? Because dealing with those hiccups is absolute torture. And I can only imagine that it's causing damage anytime that we end up with those, and especially that bad. And especially when we're hiccuping and then it's getting sucked into our lungs. We get the acid and it's getting sucked in our lungs. That cannot be good for us. And like I said, I'm sure there's a lot of you out there who have dealt with this before. And just when you go to think about that, when you walk into the gas station to pay for your gas, or you just want to run in there and grab yourself a Red Bull or a cup of coffee or a hot dog or something like that, or you just need to use the restroom really quick, and you walk in and you see that huge beer display and there's wine bottles everywhere, or you walk into your grocery store and you're just trying to get a loaf of bread and you got to walk down the wine aisle and you're looking at all that stuff and you're like, I probably could just have one tonight, just one. Just think about that. Think about those hiccups, because I know that you guys have probably dealt with them, and think about how horrible that is. And do you want to deal with that again? Do you want to go through that again? Do you want to lose sleep because you've got the hiccups so bad because you drank to the point that it got that bad, and because you drank all day long on an empty stomach because you didn't want to eat anything? Because if you eat something, it's gonna it's gonna ruin the chance for you to be able to get as drunk as you want to get. Because that was me every single day. Every single day. I wouldn't eat anything all day long. I wanted that empty stomach because all I cared about is that feeling that I wanted to feel. I just wanted to get drunk and as fast as I possibly could. So I would go the entire day not eating anything. And as soon as I got that first drink in, I could feel it run down the back of my throat, down my esophagus, and into my stomach. And I got that instant burning feeling. And right then, it was like instantly, I could already start to feel it. Because when I tell you guys, when I mixed a drink, it was all vodka and a splash. And when I say a splash, I mean literally a splash. I would take my cranberry juice and go like that, and then that was it. It was just basically just to add a little color and maybe a little bit of taste, but I wanted that straight vodka. And the thing about it is that I didn't start out drinking that way. I worked my way up to drinking that way. It took years of me drinking for me to get to that point to where if it wasn't basically just pure straight vodka, I couldn't even get anywhere with it. And that is just a horrible way to live. But guys, like I said, if you get that feeling and you feel like you want to drink, just think about the last time that you got that serious case of hiccups and how bad that it was for you. And do you want to go back to having those again? Because like I said, I used to get them every single time. It was embarrassing. And people used to make fun of me about it. It's like, there he is again, and he's got the hiccups again. And I would be the guy where everybody else is all around me having a good time. We go over to our friend's house, for, let's say, the New Year's Eve or something like that. And we'd go over there and we're going to have this cookout. And I would bring all this food over there because, we'd often do these like potluck kind of things where everybody brings a dish or two. And I would bring like 3 or 4 things with me. Fabulous food that I'd put together. And everybody else would have all this great food there too. I wouldn't touch a bite of it. Everybody else is sitting around the table, grabbing snacks, eating, sipping their drinks. Meanwhile, I'm like almost a half a gallon deep by the time we had already gotten there. And as I'm sitting there, I'm drinking straight vodka out of my tumbler that nobody can see what I've got in there. And before you know it, while everybody else is sitting there having a good time, everybody's just getting started on drinking. I'm already wasted drunk, and I'm sitting on the couch all alone with the hiccups and can't, join up with anybody. I can't speak to anybody because I'm just sitting there hiccuping so bad I literally can't speak because the hiccups were that bad. I'd try to get a word out, and as soon as I would do like that again, and that's how I would just sit there like this the whole entire night, all night long. And that's how it was until I passed out. Like I said, if you get that feeling like you want to have a drink, just think about that. Think about those hiccups. And think about what I was talking about in the beginning of this video too, about how I lost the things that were dearest to me. And I'm not just talking about my family and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about the things that meant something to me, like the things that I enjoyed to do, my hobbies. I lost them all. And I've ruined them for the rest of my life. Now, I'm not saying that I'll never get to see anything pretty again or anything like that, but I'll never be down in those canyons like that ever again, all by myself in my kayak. It just won't happen. My health is too bad. I'm not strong enough to do that anymore. And, if I ended up having some kind of medical emergency while I was in there, it would be a nightmare. And I just can't do that. I can't put myself in that position, and risk having something happen to me. I've got to be here for my family. So, guys, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and hop off of here for today. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Sorry I rambled on for so long in the beginning, but I got to talking about the outdoors, and it's something I really enjoy. And, I just found it important to speak about because I did really screw that up for myself for the rest of my life. So like I said, guys, until tomorrow, I will see y'all then. I love you guys so much. Y'all have a great rest of your weekend.